Okay, so we are live here. Thanks everybody for joining in. It's a pleasure to have all of you here, and thanks for showing such enthusiasm about this webinar that we're conducting with Oracle Product Management team at JD Edwards. And we have here Patricia Merriles, who's the Business Development Director for JD Edwards. And we've got AJ Cifano, who basically has the product management aspects of JD Edwards as well, along with other executives. So thanks a lot, Pat, for joining in. It's a pleasure having you here. And thanks a lot, AJ, for taking the time out as well. Would you like to quickly, yeah, if you'd like to quickly introduce yourselves, and I'm sure the whole community knows you already, but just wanted to give you a quick time to set the context here of where you're coming from into this webinar. So AJ, would you like to make a quick introduction?
Sure, I'll go first. Sure. Hi everybody. I'm AJ Cifano. As Ali said, I'm a member of the JD Edwards Enterprise One product management team. I am responsible for two things that actually will converge in today's webcast. I'm the product manager for our Internet of Things orchestrator, and I'm also very heavily engaged in our activities to optimize JD Edwards to run in the cloud. So you'll see two of those themes today in the webcast.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Merriles. I'm in the business development group under Lyle Ekdahl. Currently, I have responsibility of our partners here in North America, and I'm also considered a subject matter expert in supply chain for procurement and logistics. And I'm heavily engaged with digital transformation workshops and assisting with IoT within JD Edwards. So thank you for having us.
Thanks a lot for that, and let's get right into action. Before we get into the specific topic, I would like to talk about the relationship that JD Edwards has with the customer experience cloud portfolio that Oracle has, even some other vendors have, and also the IoT, and how this overlap and the precisely where JD Edwards ERP and the customer experience, like the customer interaction that you have cross-channel, across different devices, etc., with the customer, and the different equipments or the smart appliances that are deployed either within your own premises or you've deployed them at the customer site. How the intersection of these three is where the most value is, and this is where we've worked very closely with Oracle. With different product management teams to build those integrated solutions, one of them which you're seeing today. So as you would know, that the customer interactions usually happen at either at the customer touchpoint, like the mobile apps, e-commerce applications, or the CRM applications, or the self-service portals and things like those. And also with the field service people who actually go in and provide that field service. So most of the customer interactions happen there. The enterprise assets or the different equipments that you carry or that have you sold to your customers that are deployed at their site, these need to be tracked. So these are, this pillar talks basically about enterprise assets. The third are your core enterprise processes, which are within your JD Edwards. Like if we talk about a customer service transaction, there are cost components to that. There are revenue components to that. So when you talk about service profitability, how efficient those enterprise processes are play an important role, and how they can interact with the customer to enhance the customer experience, and how they can keep a track of the enterprise assets to ensure that you're delivering a high level of quality at the least amount of cost and time. Is how that whole thing happens. So the way we see IoT and the field service is a high velocity integrator across these three pillars. And as we'll see how that pans out in the actual product. And before we go further there, I would like to talk about. I would like to have AJ talk about why, for the customers, it's best for them to stay within the Oracle ecosystem when they talk about their IoT initiatives, when they talk about their customer relationship initiatives. Over to you, AJ, to give a quick insight on that.
Yeah, thanks, Ali. And to transition from your previous slide, where your message was that ERP and IoT, Internet of Things, and customer experience can no longer be siloed. That's exactly where we are when we take a look at why Internet of Things is important to JD Edwards. I am well into my 20th year with the JD Edwards product team. And in that time, obviously, for those of us who've been around that long, we've seen many technology shifts. We've seen technologies pop up that we could not even foresee. And at this point in our history, we are at a very exciting time, right? We have technologies like cloud, like big data, like Internet of Things, user experience paradigms that we never could have imagined 10 years ago. And so, from a development standpoint and hopefully from a customer standpoint, it's never been a more exciting time to be where we are now with the JD Edwards product and our customers and what they were doing. As a matter of fact, it challenges us to rethink of ourselves again in sort of a renewed adolescence of how we should look at the product and how we should look at our businesses. Certainly from a JD Edwards development standpoint, that's where we are. The product is changing, it's developing, it's adopting these technologies, and hopefully you, in your business, whatever you're trying to accomplish, whether you're manufacturing or in the context of this webinar, field service, whether you're in mining, heavy asset-intensive construction, agribusiness, whatever you are in JD Edwards, we hope that you're challenged to look at yourself as the adolescence of your business, meaning that you're looking forward into an adulthood that comes with a certain amount of digital transformation. And so what I'm excited to be in this webinar today, because we really see three things converging. But what we see is a demonstration of JD Edwards' cloud strategy. And that cloud strategy has sort of two faces to it. One is, how could I use the power of cloud to run my actual JD Edwards implementation on a public cloud like Oracle's public cloud offering, Oracle Infrastructure as a Service or Platform as a Service. Certainly there's a nimbleness and agility that comes from running. Customers are looking at public clouds to supercharge their JD Edwards deployments and be the nimble, scalable, self-service, agile type of deployment that is necessary for digital transformation. The other side of that coin, and by the way, everything that we're going to say in this presentation today applies to you whether you're running JD Edwards on-premise or in a hosted fashion, or if you decide to run it in a public cloud like Oracle's cloud. So there's still agility and choice and control over where you're running your JD Edwards. The second side of that cloud strategy is how many of the cloud services are available to adopt quickly and easily to augment and supplement what you can do with JD Edwards Enterprise One. And in the context of the field cloud service today, we're going to show a pretty good demonstration of how to adopt an Oracle cloud service, in this case the field service cloud, to augment and complement JD Edwards functionality. So we're pretty excited about that. The second thing, so that's cloud. The second thing is JD Edwards Internet of Things strategy itself. And that, as Ali showed in the previous slide, we can no longer think of that as a siloed add-on thing. We are at the point where real-time continuous accurate data coming in from Internet of Things devices, whether they're devices or gateways or even just simply third-party systems, they have to be considered first-class contributors into the data that goes through the JD Edwards apps and ends up in the JD Edwards transaction tables. And that's the lifeblood of your business, right? That's your inventory, your financial data, your customer master, your parts master. All the lifeblood of your enterprise is in those JD Edwards tables, and we can't count on human beings to be the only data collection devices into that. So we are at the point now where IoT is simply a normal, continuous part of data entry into JD Edwards. The third part of this. Oh, go ahead, Ali.
Yeah, thanks a lot, AJ, for that. Now, I basically am putting in front, just for your, so that you know, I'm putting in front the JD Edwards Service Management modules and Oracle Field Service Cloud modules. If you would like to go ahead and discuss a little bit on that, you pointed out how the customer master and the inventory master and things like those need to remain closer to the ERP and closer to the general ledger for so many different reasons. Because there's a mistake that a lot of customers have, made in the past, where they did not realize what power they already have in JD Edwards that they can leverage on, plus what they need on the CRM side of things. Because if you move things like service contracts and customer masters and things like those away from the GL or the ERP, it could be a lot of complex integration that you have to do, which you get as a default within JD Edwards for those sort of modules. If you could, shed some light on that aspect.
Yeah, exactly. So that goes into that second prong of our cloud strategy. When we look at the literally dozens upon dozens of Oracle service offerings, whether they be platform as a service with integration technologies, technical platform technologies, database and Java, integration like integration cloud service, IoT cloud service, or whether they're more application oriented like the field service cloud. So literally dozens of those, and making those available to JD Edwards customers to complement existing JD Edwards is a good thing for all of our customers. So the premise goes like this. If you're a JD Edwards customer, quite possibly, because we've got such a broad, loyal customer base, it's quite possible you've been running JD Edwards for years, right? Maybe even decades. And that history represents a pretty rich set of data that's sitting in your JD Edwards system. We've got a set of assets in the form of JD Edwards applications that collect and process and fill up the tables, and then you could possibly have many hundreds of gigabytes, terabytes of data in your JD Edwards tables. That is not an asset that you would like to just toss out the window. It took you a lot of time to develop that asset, and that is definitely one you should continue with. So the question is, how do I adopt, and when should I adopt Oracle cloud services to augment and complement that? And in this context, we're talking about field service, right? So there are some things, some very cool functional things in the Oracle Field Service Cloud that do things that JD Edwards does not. And by integrating them in a seamless fashion, Ali will show you how they've done that in just a moment. We can get the best of both worlds. Essentially what we're making is a best of breed, hybrid breed between JD Edwards, whether it's running on premise or in the cloud, and adopting quickly and nimbly a new Oracle field service cloud offering. So, for example, you probably spent years and years building up your customer master, your list of suppliers, all your service providers. JD Edwards got a really good work order system. The benefit there is we already know how to do work orders and issue spare parts through our inventory. You got item master, inventory built into your JD Edwards systems. And what is it about an ERP system that's so beneficial and magical? Why did you buy an ERP system in the first place? Well, the reason is because all of those features and functions, work orders, spare parts, inventory, labor, all of that is integrated into things like your financial systems, right? Your general ledger, your entire system is working that way. And so you don't want to give all that up. That's been the lifeblood of your system for decades. At the same time, there are things like scheduling and deployment, shifts, assigning resources, dispatching, and creating activities in Oracle Field Service that are critical, but maybe those are pieces that JD Edwards doesn't really do. So what you'd like to do is pull these two puzzle pieces together in a seamless fashion, which Ali will show you in a moment. And that way you get that best of breed hybrid JD Edwards cloud to put you in a good position, not just to do incrementally better field service, but to take your field service operation and literally transform it into a way of doing business that could possibly be much different than what you have been doing, in years past or even today. So you're looking for that transformative experience, not just incremental benefit. And you're going to get that not by discarding, the diesel engine of your ERP system in JD Edwards, but you're going to do that by maintaining what it does and does well and augmenting it with the cloud services that are newly available.
Thanks a lot, AJ, for that. And this is the precise point we basically are emphasizing on, that there is a lot of stuff that you have within JD Edwards, and there's a lot of stuff that is out there on the cloud. So if you can marry the two together in a very good orchestration, that is where you get the benefit of both. And it's an amplification that in terms of the value that you get. So this is precisely what we're going to be discussing as we move forward. And before we do that, let me talk a little bit about how this thing looks like in terms of an architecture. So this diagram kind of gives you a bird's eye view into how your Oracle JD Edwards, using IoT Orchestrator, using AIS, or using business services, can integrate with Oracle PaaS offerings like Integration Cloud Service, Process Cloud Service, and the BI Cloud Service, and how this thing can also integrate with the customer experience cloud applications like a Service Cloud, right now Service Cloud, and also with Oracle Field Service Cloud. So what we've done is we've built some vertical modules on top of the Service Cloud and on top of Oracle Field Service Cloud. And this specific direction that AJ just pointed out for the customers, that how you leverage the two together in the best way possible, is what was our sort of strategy of building those solutions at that intersection of the two. So as you see in this diagram, you see how the PaaS is connected on the right side with Field Service Cloud, on the left side with Oracle IoT Cloud, also with IoT Orchestrator, which is basically, as we'll see, is a very exciting tool, which basically lets you orchestrate and map out the different sensor data from the appliance directly into the JD Edwards applications, reducing a lot of development time that you would otherwise have to put in just to make that basic mapping and integration happen. So moving forward, Pat, would you like to shed a bit of light on the IoT Orchestrator piece here, and then we'll move forward?
I think AJ might want to talk about the orchestrator since he has responsibility over that.
Yeah, sure. As product manager for the IoT Orchestrator, let me jump in there because we're pretty excited about that. We should think of the IoT Orchestrator as an extension of the JD Edwards Enterprise One integration platform. And there's already, for years we've had a pretty broad set of integration tools, and they're all very functional. And we don't have an intention of retiring any of them. We have business services, real-time events, some point-to-point integrators. All of that's still part of the JD Edwards portfolio for an integration platform. But the Internet of Things Orchestrator is very interesting. It's a relatively new addition to our platform, and it's designed to take in relatively thin, sterile data from Internet of Things devices or gateways, or as I said earlier, even third-party systems, which you'll see here today. Relatively thin data. We can take that data, and the IoT Orchestrator can map it and transform it, cross-reference it, if you will, into JD Edwards part numbers or employee numbers or business units. The Orchestrator has a rules engine, so you can filter in or filter out data as it comes in and decide what to do with it. But most importantly, the data coming in, a business analyst can use a pretty easy studio to map the incoming data into any of the JD Edwards applications. And so we built this thing to be used by business analysts, the citizen developer, to take in data and launch any of the JD Edwards applications. So what we like to say is if you're smart enough to use the JD Edwards applications, you're smart enough to build one of these IoT Orchestrator orchestrations through the tool. And this is exactly the technology that Ali has employed to bring in some of the data. In this case, I believe it's coming in through the Oracle IoT Cloud Service, another great example of how we integrate in a hybrid fashion to cloud-based services. goes through the JD Edwards IoT Orchestrator, and eventually kicks off JD Edwards applications. So Ali, why don't you explain more about how you did that?
Yeah, thanks a lot, AJ, for that. And now we are now going to get into the exciting part of actually seeing the flow of how things are going to work between those 3 to 4 different great products. So let me just give an overview first, and then we'll jump right into the demo. So here you've got any enterprise asset. It could be an air conditioner, it could be HVAC unit, it could be drilling equipment. It could be anything that you can think of in terms of enterprise assets that you either own or you've sold to the customer and deployed at their site. So we're collecting different sensor data from there into the Oracle IoT Cloud Service. From the Oracle IoT Cloud Service, we are sending it out and into JD Edwards IoT Orchestrator. And as AJ pointed out, that the IoT Orchestrator, what it does is it removes a lot of complexity in terms of mapping the raw sensor data into some rich business applications that JD Edwards has, right? So what we've done is we've used the work order module and we've mapped that sensor data to create an automatic work order inside of Oracle JD Edwards. The other thing we've done is we've integrated the Oracle JD Edwards with Oracle Field Service Cloud. So all the data that can be enriched within JD Edwards, like cost code classifications, which service center cost head is going to be applied, and all the other service contract, warranty management, all those good things that are best done within JD Edwards using the service management module, we're doing it there. But all the great stuff that the cloud does, which is mobility, sort of agility and smart routing and predictive aspects of that are being handled in Oracle Field Service Cloud. So Oracle JD Edwards passing on that work order and creating an activity inside of Field Service Cloud, which in turn we've connected back to the IoT Cloud, which we'll see, which is very interesting from there. Once that is moved on to the OFSC mobility, the Field Service Cloud mobility interface, the service engineer gets into the action as well, and everything gets connected in the real time. So just imagine if you were to do a service profitability report daily, you could do that, or even a few times in the day because of that connectivity of whenever the case gets closed, what the bill of material is, all inventory, spare parts, everything linked together between TOA Field Service Cloud and Oracle JD Edwards. The other thing which is interesting is we've built something we call IoT controller right inside of the work order module. So your first level support can actually connect directly with the equipment and get the real-time data from there, and can also control that device to do some initial diagnosis. You can imagine how much cost you can save if you can, based on that initial diagnosis, kind of identify what the problem is and can have the customer on the phone and fix it. And then if the field service is required, only then with further interaction data that you have with the customer and some initial diagnosis, you can pass it on to the Field Service Cloud for the actual field servicing. So let's look at the demo itself. So the way the demo is structured is divided into 3 to 4 key areas that we'll see in this customer journey map. Now, this customer journey map is starting from the equipment itself through the predictive maintenance aspect. So it could be a scheduled maintenance, or it could be triggered by the equipment itself. So before the equipment dies, it's going to tell you some early signs of it getting sick so that you can do it preemptively as opposed to when it's actually broken down. So starting from here, first, as I said, we'll break it up into 3 pieces or to 4 pieces. The first piece is where the smart equipment or appliance is going to connect to the IoT cloud, and in turn is going to connect with IoT Orchestrator and then on to JD Edwards, a work order module. So this is the piece, the one highlighted here is what we're going to see now. So here's the equipment. It could be any equipment. In this case, we've just taken the air conditioner. We've taken 4 sensor data from it: the temperature of the air, the temperature of the coil, the pressure of the compressor, and the ampere in the coil. So those are, these 4 parameters in this specific case are good telltale signs of what could be going wrong with the air conditioner. So from there on, we've moved into the Oracle IoT Cloud Service, interface. We've captured that 4 data. We've written algorithms inside of IoT Cloud Service which help determine what type of a problem it is. From there on, we move that data into IoT Orchestrator, and as you can see on the screen, the different sensor data is being mapped inside of your Oracle work order module. So automatically, based on that trigger, in the real time, you can create a work order without even having to punch in a key. So just imagine the cost savings because of that. So once that work order is automatically created, then you can enrich that with all the other aspects of assigning which service center is going to take it, what are the rules in terms of the warranty entitlements that you have, what sort of SLAs you have with the customer, things like those. So all that can be taken care of there. The next part of the demo is where we talk about the first level support, actually controlling that equipment in the real time. So what we've done is we've built something which is the IoT Control Panel. So right inside of the work order module, which you're going to see next, is this highlighted section which we call equipment control. So what we've done is we've taken the real-time sensor data, as you can see on the left side, which is the recorded equipment logs, and on the right side you have the control to actually turn on and off the device and change the temperature. What that basically does is by changing that, by changing the temperature, for example, you can know, okay, what got impacted in terms of the compressor pressure and things like those. And every application is going to be different. And we basically work closely with the engineering team to find out what are the key parameters which help you diagnose a potential problem. So once that is done, the next step basically is that the JD Edwards is going to schedule a field service activity. The work order is going to be passed on to the field service cloud very seamlessly, right, within JD Edwards interface. So there are 2 options to it. We're going to look at the first option here, which is within the work order module, we've added a tab called Schedule, as you will be able to see on the screen. So now these boxes that you see and this calendar that you see is connected in the real time with Oracle Field Service Cloud. What that basically means is, based on what was the work order type, if it was maintenance of the lift or if it was a maintenance for an equipment, which service center has to serve it based on where the equipment is installed or the customer's address. It picks it up automatically. It picks up the calendar based on the actual capacity quota schedules that you've specified within Oracle Field Service Cloud. All of that start appearing within JD Edwards. So you can pick and choose which time slot is best fit. The service engineer is available and the customer is available for welcoming the service engineer, and things like those. They can set up the activity inside of field service. So as soon as that happens, and this is the second option. So the second option is you can export it to field service without having to integrate it visually, or from the UI perspective, you can do all the stuff here and then pass it on to the field service. Here on this diagram, you see what's happening is the first step was the automatic work order creation, as we talked about. The second step was the initial diagnosis. The third step is where you pass it on to the field service cloud, where it got assigned to a service center, it got assigned to a particular service engineer based on all the policies and rules that you have specified for smart routing and smart assignments within field service cloud. The fourth step is where you're exporting it out to the field service to take action on it. Okay, so the next step once that automatic assignment gets made, the service engineer gets a notification on their app. So they get to see first thing in the morning. They'll know, okay, these are the 5 visits or the 5 activities that I have to do. And because of the IoT connectivity, they can also pull the data for the equipment that they are supposed to fix, and can find out what parts might be broken, so they can keep the right spare part with them. They can know what is covered under the warranty, so that when they go out and make a bill of material for the customer, the right equipments are charged, and so on and so forth. And the same goes back into JD Edwards for the billing within service management module. Okay, so I think that covers our third portion of the demo. The fourth piece is where you'll see the power of field service cloud. So as soon as the work order gets into field service, what happens with that? So you can do a lot of stuff that you might not be able to do within JD Edwards, but is available with field service cloud. Now, what are those things? Let's see some of them here. So first of all, you can define that an N level of hierarchy in terms of your service centers throughout the nation, even globally, and you can define those work zones. You can define the hierarchy, and you can then move on to specify the work skills. Now think of them as more like as SBUs, the business units, what sort of major divisions you have for, and what are the different rules within them. So once you've specified that, you can go ahead and define the activity types within those key sectors or key business units, right? So you can define what sort of services you provide, like for example, power generation, gas compression services, your engine maintenance services, earth moving, recycling, mining. So all the different types of activities can go here. The next step is once you've done that, you create a technician. So once you're creating a technician, again, you're mapping it to the service center, you're mapping it to the work skill. So you are creating a pool of, you're creating a bucket of resources, and you are assigning them what service centers and what particular skills they carry. So for example, here a technician is being created, which is and he's located in Houston, Texas, and he works for the construction sector. Similarly, another technician is being created, and he works on fixing the engines. So they can both be created and both be available within the same Texas service center, but the work order, based on the work order type and the assignment rules that you'll define within Field Service Cloud, they're going to be automatically assigned based on their availability. As you'll see next, how you specify the actual capacity categories. So the capacity categories is a set of work skills and time slots that are mapped out against those business units, and you can specify what is the calendar of the resources, and then the resources themselves or the service, and you can also define inventory types. So we'll get on that scheduling piece just a bit later, but before we do that, you can also have the inventory available in those service centers and keep it in sync with your JD Edwards inventory master, so that all the time you have the right equipment, right, and you know what is being carried at different service centers. You can even go further and map it to each service engineer, so you know what is available in the truck of which service engineer, or in the bag of which, in the toolbox of which service engineer. So moving forward, here you're going to see what I was talking about, that this service engineer Paul, we're going to define the work schedule, work time, shift, what holidays, etc., overtime, and everything in there for one service engineer. And this gets inherited from the group of resources. You can define one group, and you can specify this, and all the people within the group are going to inherit that automatically. Okay, so the next piece from here is the routing profile, and this is a very interesting piece. So with the routing profile, what happens is you define the logic and the rule. What happens if this type of work order lands in this particular bucket, in this particular service center? So you can predefine the routing rules, and you can assign this routing profile to any particular node within the hierarchy of the service centers we define. So you can go in and assign that routing plan, and you can make it available for the full bucket, or you can categorize that and things like those. So once you've done that, this bucket has been assigned for this example. The Texas field force has been assigned this particular routing profile. So the work order that got created inside of JD Edwards got into field service, and based on the routing profile, got assigned to the relevant service center, and from within the relevant service center to the relevant bucket, and from the relevant bucket to the relevant service engineer who's available to service that request at that very hour, at that very moment. So that sort of real-time visibility and tracking of who gets to do what is increases your efficiencies to a very high level, and reduces the cost for each service request drastically as well. So once that is happening, the technician gets a notification, and they click on it and they can serve it. They can create a bill of material, and they can look at that what is covered within the SLA and things like those, and based on that they can generate the bill of material. You can also have a dashboard for every service center where you're looking at the routing plans, what are the savings you're making, what is the resource utilization within your bucket, and things so on and so forth. And then you obviously have the overall dashboard for Field Service Cloud, where you're keeping a tab on all of that together, in a bird's eye view. The good thing is, and which AJ mentioned as well, that if this whole thing, now this is the best of breed in terms of the cloud field service. Now JD Edwards is best of breed when it comes to, especially for some industries, is just a gold standard for this decades of investments that has been made into the product that you might have made in terms of customization on top of it. Once you marry that, this lethal you have this lethal combination of those hardcore enterprise processes that work great, and the agility of the cloud and the smart routing and the Google Maps, and that are integrated together to work in the best interest for you as a service organization and for your customers. If you marry them together, that's a very, very powerful combination that you get, which you can't get anywhere else. If you were to go with any other cloud-based field service CRM, they might look good and sexy on the face of it, but then you talk about the real deal, the real business, in terms of integrating with your financials and keeping it all in sync in the real time and closing your books daily and keeping a complete tab on your business as a service org is simply not possible with other combinations. And this is precisely why we're so passionate about it, and have built the solution for you. It's all ready to go. We are ready to schedule demos for it and give you a taste of this. We can start with the proof of concept and do a deeper dive into your situation and take it from there. So that's pretty much it. We have the full video demo for this, but I know we might not be able to show it within this call. But feel free to reach out to actually see the product functioning, and then we can also talk about your integration readiness. On that, we can help you set up the IoT Orchestrator and things like those, so that what is available and what are the possibilities there. Basically, anything AJ you would like to add on it before we conclude the call, or basically open up for questions?
Yeah, I guess just to review what we just saw. A fantastic example from our partner, and I can't stress how important our partner ecosystem is to the JD Edwards community. So I want to thank Ali and eFlux for demonstrating their skill, acumen, and understanding of the various Oracle technologies, including JD Edwards Enterprise One, to put together this really good example of the two prongs of our strategy with JD Edwards and cloud. What a great example of adopting both the IoT cloud service and the field service cloud to augment JD Edwards, and to demonstrate the importance of Internet of Things and how the real-time continuous accurate data coming in from the devices can turn all the data into JD Edwards turns to gold. So thanks so much for doing that, and it's again a great example of how a business should be thinking not just incremental improvements, but how to transform itself from a sort of renewed adolescence into a new adulthood, and how we intend to arm our customers with options and choice that make them competitive in building their solutions, building their business, maybe even expanding into new business models to compete and outmaneuver their competition, right? And in doing so, we intend to give customers new choices, broader choices, on-premise or cloud, not either, but or, right? Systems like JD Edwards and new systems like Oracle Cloud offerings that are popping up every day, dozens of them. We hope to arm our customers with more tools, more options, more choice, more control, so that they can put together that competitive business that helps them succeed and transform in the future.
So we have a quick question here, and the question is, do we need service management module for this to work within JD Edwards, or yeah, just a work order module would be enough? So if we are not billing our customer, but it's more to do with our internal service org, is that still possible with what we've built? So yeah, the answer is yes. The integration that we've built is right at the work order module level. However, as you would know, the service management leverages work order module in a big way. All the cost accounting for the service that you perform for the customer is handled from work order module and onwards to the financials. Having said that, the service management module adds the service billing, the pricing, the SLA, and those sort of aspects to the whole mix. So depending on what you already have installed or what are the use cases that it might make sense to have a service management module. In other cases, if it's more of an internal service org where you don't really care about the revenue piece of it, you are better. You can still go ahead and use the work order management module and integrate that. AJ, would you like to add a bit on that?
Yeah, again, I would take that up a level and say that, we're looking at a pretty specific example here, and it's very interesting. And as Ali left with the next steps, schedule a demo. What we're seeing here is not a set in stone necessarily, out of the box offering, although it works, and we're so thanks to Ali and eFlux for putting this together. But we should think of having just a broader set of components. A very fancy Lego set, if you want to look at it that way, of options to put it together. So as we look at how to transform and get new use out of JD Edwards, more value out of the apps and data that you already own, I'm not going to be shy. Our intention is to sell more JD Edwards modules. And if you had looked at a JD Edwards module in the past and said, that's pretty interesting, but I don't think we could get a full return on investment out of that, so we'll shelve that for later. What we absolutely hope to see is that with the adoption of the Internet of Things, with the integration of modules like the Oracle Field Service Cloud, with thinking of new things to do, we absolutely hope that you see a renewed value in new JD Edwards modules. So please don't be shy about looking at some of the JD Edwards modules you may have overlooked in the past and consider relicensing those, because we absolutely intend to help you find new value in new license opportunities for the JD Edwards product line. But just in general, when you're thinking of this stuff, consider it a broader set of assets that you can lay out on your whiteboard as you're architecting your solution.
Yeah, thanks a lot, AJ, for that. And so the next question here is that do we need IoT Orchestrator for actual business process design as well, or is it just for the mapping between the sensor data and the JD Edwards application? So if you can a little bit explain a bit more on the IoT Orchestrator.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that one, because what we find is the word itself, the word orchestration, can have different meanings to different people in different contexts. And the direct answer is that it's the latter. That the IoT Orchestrator really is designed in its current state to transform incoming data, do some fairly simple manipulation of it, as I said, cross-referencing. Let's say it's a device ID, or a fairly simple, in your case, Ali, a temperature or a pressure reading on the compressor. Pretty simple data, and having that come through the system, maybe cross-reference the device ID into a JD Edwards asset number, into a JD Edwards equipment number, a part number, whatever it takes, and then having that data feed into a JD Edwards program and form, or set of forms, and kick that off into what you'd consider a JD Edwards transaction. What we are not doing with the IoT Orchestrator is trying to build it into what you might traditionally think of as a business process orchestration tool. So this is not sitting at the high level. This is not taking the place of, if you know, the Oracle BPOL Process Manager, or the Process Cloud Service. again, there's other tools out there and other Oracle Cloud services that will serve at the high level for integrating a much broader business process. In this context, the JD Edwards IoT Orchestrator is simply ushering data coming in from devices, gateways, or third-party systems and triggering JD Edwards applications or Java programs if you choose to write some Java and trigger those out.
Right. So the next question is more specific to field service. There are customers who have been building these field service customized applications for themselves with some mobile apps in there and some routing capability and stuff like that. So how does field service cloud replace? Is that going to replace it, or is it going to can it live along with what we've already got? So a quick answer would be that it's better to first see what the powerful features of Oracle Field Service Cloud provides, as opposed to what you've already built. And because it's very modular, the pricing for Field Service Cloud is highly modular as well, so you can pick and choose what best fits for you. And we, as a system integrator, we can definitely help you out, identify and draw those lines in terms of what you already got can still work, and a transition plan from there onwards to a full-blown Oracle Field Service Cloud implementation. So the best way to always answer these sort of questions is to lay down on the whiteboard what you already got, what is the value add that you're getting out of it at this point, and the pain points that are there are usually the the prime targets that you can start out with. Having said that, it's always good to keep a broader roadmap in mind, so that you don't put a band-aid on something that might be a bigger problem in terms of your architecture. So it's always good when you're making a cloud adoption and you are a JD Edwards customer, it's always good to have an understanding of what your integration architecture is like, whether or not a business service would be a better fit, whether AIS, where would the IoT Orchestrator fit into this whole play. So that's always good to kind of first do that sort of an assessment, and also look what you're getting into on the cloud. So if you're getting a service cloud or a field service cloud, those use cases and the ones that are going to add the maximum value for your specific business situation should be picked up first from the implementation perspective, but the architecture should at least be thought through for the next 5 to 10 years, at least 5 years, I would say. And most of the companies are going to coexist both within the on-prem and the cloud. So as Oracle very well realizes the fact that there's going to be a lot of hybrid integration that are going to happen. So do keep that in mind, that you don't just want to lose out on what you already have that you've built over decades. So AJ, any quick point on this? I think we'll be done.
No, nothing. I think you covered it very well, Ali.
Okay. So thanks a lot, everyone, for being here. It's a pleasure to host this webinar. And I hope you've enjoyed it and it adds value to you in your specific situations. And as we've been repeatedly saying, that feel free to reach out to AJ, to Pat, to myself, and we'll be happy to schedule a demo for you. And then we take it from there. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in. Appreciate all of you being there. Thanks a lot, AJ, for taking the time out. Thanks a lot, Pat, for taking the time out. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks, all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take good care, everyone. Bye-bye.